So it has been a minute since I updated you all on my first 12-week year that I'm doing. And I'm happy to say that there's been a lot of progress made from week 3, when I last updated you, to now actually week 10. So only 2 more weeks to go in this 12-week year. And I've actually completed and surpassed 2 of my goals already. So that's really exciting. And the first one being Spanish. So I was hopeful that I would be able to finish a little bit early, and I did. So I just finished my beginner A1 level Spanish last week, and I'm going to be starting the kind of next module, or I don't even know, next level next week. So that's very exciting. And then the second goal that I have completed is my already revised mile time goal. So my original goal was to do 10 minutes. I surpassed that. And so my new goal was to do 9 minutes. And I actually accomplished that in mid-September. Now is October 8th. And then just last week, I actually did a 8:38 mile. Admittedly, I was really dying at the end of that mile. So it is an upcoming kind of revised goal of mine to get it to 8.5 by the next 2 weeks, and then also to start to increase the mileage. So try to maintain that pace at, a 5K distance instead of just 1 mile. And to be honest, as I have been improving my mile time pace, honestly, when I hit my 9 minute and then did 8:38, which is honestly the fastest I've ever been, which is a little bit embarrassing to say, but I've never been someone who was athletic. I didn't play any sports when I was a kid. I was in AYSO, if any of you know what that is, basically little kid soccer for a year or something, and I was so horrible. It was really bad. But yeah, so this is kind of the most fit I've ever been, and yet I didn't really feel that good necessarily when I hit those goals, because I just knew that there are so many people who are way faster than me. And I actually had that confirmed for me because I went to track practice for the triathlon team where I go to school, and I was getting lapped so badly. And the slowest group was the 8.5 minute mile team, and I could not keep up with them for multiple miles for an hour. So it was really that was such a growth experience for me, because I was the slowest person on the track by far. But my promise to myself was that, hey, at least I am not going to walk. I am not going to give up on myself, even as I saw the coach okay, all of you are gonna do a fast 800 meters, which is 2 laps around the track, but Justine will just do a fast 400. So I would literally do half the number of laps, because otherwise I would be holding up the team that badly. And so yeah, that's just kind of the context of it doesn't necessarily feel that great, or wasn't feeling that great for me, even though I'm getting faster. But I wanted to kind of mention that in this video, because I think that while it's really good to enjoy the process, and I have been, it's also important to enjoy those little milestones and to kind of not put yourself down just because you're comparing yourself to others, because it really is a never-ending journey. You can always be getting faster, you can always be getting better in no matter what pursuit you're kind of going for. And so it's important to just keep that perspective in mind and not let your ego get in the way of true progress. Because for example, now for the last couple of weeks, I've been starting polarized training really seriously. And so what polarized training is you do kind of an 80-20 split roughly, of 80% being very kind of easy aerobic exercise. And the idea is that you'd be, if you have 5 heart rate zones, you'll try to be in zone 1, zone 2. And then the 20% you're going to spend on really intense exercise, so zone 4, zone 5, and almost no, at least intentional effort in zone 3, which is kind of what people call the sweet spot zone. And there's been kind of a lot of research at this point to show that sweet spot is not actually sweet spot. It's kind of a very low yield zone where you're putting in a lot of effort, but you're also at higher risk of injury, because you're basically pushing yourself at your beyond your aerobic threshold a lot of the time, and therefore basically your body is not very well adapted to dealing with that load. So kind of the theory behind this polarized training is that you want to spend most of your time kind of building your base, building your foundation. And it's not very impressive and it's not very exciting. It's the kind of effort where it's just something that you're doing consistently, but it should be the kind where like you can even sing or you can easily have an extended conversation or be on your phone. And so for me, I do a lot of like Anki flashcards, or I even started doing practice questions while I'm doing zone 2 exercises. And it was a huge mental game for me at the beginning because of the fact that it felt frustrating to not be able to go harder and to push myself more. But that's not the point. The point is to be building your foundation, and then when you do go hard, you're really pushing yourself to your limit. And I felt like that was such a good analogy for just like trying to achieve goals in general, is that most of the work is not glamorous, but you're just kind of building your foundation, and that's what's going to really help you to achieve that major progress that is really kind of like shocking and also sustainable, basically. So all of that to say that enjoy the process, but also enjoy the milestones along the way, and really don't compare yourself to others except for at very regimented intervals, I would say. Even comparing yourself to yourself, because there's so much variability on a day-to-day basis. There are going to be some days where you're just not feeling it and you're not able to put out quite the same performance as you were the day before, or that you will the day following. So if you try to overmeasure, I think that can cause a lot of psychological distress that's not really necessary, because you have to just trust that you are building your foundation. Okay, so that is that, but now on to the two kind of more slow burn goals, which are one, studying for step 1, the first kind of standardized exam that everyone needs to take in medical school, and then 2, making progress on my research. So in terms of step 1, one thing that I've started doing, and I started alluding to this in my week 3 progress update, but now it's kind of been normalized into my daily routine, is that I do UO questions every morning while I have my coffee or whatever breakfast I'm having that day. And that has been really helpful for me. And I actually even do the questions on my phone. I don't do them on my computer, which I think for some people who are in the middle of step studying might see that as blasphemous, because it's kind of a very intensive thing normally, is what's recommended, is that you do it on your computer, and then what you're going to do is for every question that you get wrong or that there's a concept that you don't understand, you're going to either make flashcards yourself or tag flashcards from one of the third-party decks, and then you do those cards the same day. It's like a very intense process. But for me, I found that trying to do it that way, while it's not that I don't ever do it that way, the most important thing is I actually need to do those questions. And I will, for example, if there's a topic that I don't like quite understand, or maybe I didn't learn this properly, I will watch a video on that topic from Boards and Beyond, or look up an article on Amboss, or watch videos on YouTube related to that, and that definitely helps me a lot in terms of retaining it. And then also for me, because of the way that I learn, also kind of like using the Feynman method of almost like teaching the concept myself, using the materials that I have in front of me with the explanations for the question of, okay, so when I see this question again or something similar, these are the symptoms that I'm looking out for, or this was the key reason why I got this question wrong because I misunderstood this, or etc., etc. And so I found that to be really helpful, and basically not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, and just having things done is the most important thing, is to actually get those reps in. So that has been my lesson for step studying, and I have not been doing diagnostics every single weekend just because I just felt like I didn't have enough time with studying for everything else. So that's probably not going to be something that I even try to implement in the next 2 weeks. I think what's more important for me right now is to continue doing questions every single day, especially for the block that I'm in. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, because you're studying for the current units that you're being tested on in school, but you're also getting some practice with the standardized exam. So I think that would be really a great strategy also for those of you who are pre-med and are looking at taking the MCAT, is that if you're in, for example, biochem, and I don't know, you could definitely use UWorld or whatever like Kaplan textbook, anything like that, but to basically do practice questions from the standardized format that are related to the unit that you're in, I think would be such a helpful strategy for pre-meds as well. So I'm going to continue with that. And then the other thing is I really am intending to get through the backlog of new, meaning cards I haven't seen before on Anki, related to the missed questions that I've done. So I have tagged some cards, and right now I have around 360 cards that I haven't even touched. I haven't even looked at them after getting the question wrong. So I think it'll be really important for me to get through those over these next few days, because we just finished up our musculoskeletal unit. It's hard to believe because the last time I talked to you all about this, I was in the neurology unit, but we already finished that exam. I already took the musculoskeletal one, and then we're gonna be starting endocrine on Wednesday. So between now, Saturday, and Tuesday, I'm planning to finish those 360 new cards on top of trying to, obviously do reviews. So that is, I think, very doable and will be really helpful. So yeah, that's it with the med school stuff. And on the research front, I talked to you all last time about kind of the main project that I'm working on, which is on genetics and environment interactions on childhood asthma. And so we had a really big breakthrough in terms of finding out that the data that we had received had actually been inverted. And so now that that's fixed, it's been really nice that basically the analyses that I ran make sense now, which is awesome. And so I'm just going to do a little bit more work in R and coding stuff. And so that's a major project for me to finish on this Tuesday, thankfully, because we do have this longer weekend. And then there are 2 other projects I'm working on where they're almost done. So I'm planning to finish the manuscripts for that this Monday. So those are my 2 big focuses before we start endocrine, just to get it out of the way, because with basically the semester ending and then us going into dedicated period for STEP, that this is really the time. And I found with being in medical school that when there is that perfect window, that you cannot miss it, because otherwise things start to pile up and it's never gonna get done. And an overall mindset that I've had kind of starting somewhere in the middle of this 12-week year that has really helped me, I think, with accomplishing these goals is I think of my life now as basically just having 2 grinds. And the first grind and top priority is doctoring and becoming a doctor, and trying to be the best doctor I possibly can be. And then the second one being triathlon, and that's like a very helpful counterbalance for me in terms of just maintaining my mental health and physical health, and staying sane. It's like a really great stressor for me, and just like something that I really look forward to, in addition to just doing stuff related to doctoring. So having it in those 2 buckets is just so simple and makes my life easier, rather than trying to think of all the little minutia that I need to handle on every single day. And then the other thing with that is a question that is a little bit silly, but is a helpful kind of decision mechanism for me, is I ask myself, hey, like, would the best doctor in the world skip this right now? Would the best doctor in the world not finish their reviews right now? And the answer is always no. Like, it's almost always no. And the kind of like other side of that is obviously, quote unquote, the best doctor in the world needs to be in it for the long haul. So you don't want to be burning yourself out, and then that's going to have such a negative impact on your entire life, including your professional life. So you need to kind of maintain that balance. And so that's just basically the question I ask myself whenever I'm feeling a little bit lazy or I just kind of want to quit for whatever reason. And it's been helping a lot. So finally, I'm going to end this video with my next steps for these last 2 weeks of this 12-week year, and then also a little preview of some goals that I'm thinking about for the next cycle for me, because I definitely feel like this model is very helpful. It's kind of the perfect time, in my opinion, where 3 months is long enough that actual progress can be made, and short enough where you feel a little bit of that intensity. So my next steps for the 2 remaining goals that I have are, one, like I mentioned, this next 4 days really is going to be where I really hammer it out for research and try to basically get things completely done for most of the projects I'm currently working on. And then for STEP, in addition to continuing with doing UWorld every single day, also doing those Anki backlog new cards that I have to do also by this Tuesday. I definitely think that it's accomplishable. And then from there, just kind of like trying to maintain that, like trying to minimize any kind of backlog for UWorld is going to be my goal for that. And finally, a new goal that I'm definitely thinking I'm going to be including on my next 12-week year and probably already starting to implement now is to decrease my spending. So I obviously am a student and I have loans, and it's just not the schmoove right now for me to be spending as much as I am on like going out to study at cafes and whatever, eating out. It's just not where it's at, especially with like kind of upcoming expenses, because I'm probably going to have to get some winter gear for biking, because it's going to be really cold and potentially snowing when we go to Japan this winter. So those are things that are on the horizon, and so I haven't quite formulated my plan of attack for how I'm going to reduce my spending yet, but definitely want to try to limit the amount of money that I'm spending on just kind of dining. I think is like really my biggest expense besides just like keeping myself alive. So that's gonna be something I'm working on, and it's such a difficult thing. I think for those of you who are also students, I feel like you can relate to this, where when I study at a cafe, I feel like I am so much more productive, and there are a lot of times where I'm studying at home for multiple hours and I just feel like I have to find a way to like change up my environment so that way I can kind of get a new like spurt of inspiration. And there is actually like some research to support the idea that like when you study in different places, it can help you to stimulate a flow state when you have that little bit of novelty. Not that that necessarily justifies going out and spending money all the time, but yeah, I'm gonna have to find some kind of middle ground, because ultimately like I need to make sure that I'm learning as the top priority, but I want to try and reduce my spending. So I will update you all on that sometime in an upcoming video. But yeah, that is all for this 10-week update, and I'm very excited for updating you all again in a few weeks from now on the remaining goals. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and hope you have a great day. Bye!